What's up, beautiful people? How are y'all doing out there today on this fine Friday afternoon? It is the last Friday in the month of May. And if you guys have been following us, y'all know that we have been celebrating the entire month of May. M for MM turned five, celebrating 5 years of service to the cannabis industry, to our communities. And we're going to keep that going here today as well. We got a couple more guests that we have that are part of the organization who we're bringing on to talk about, just what it's been like being a part of this growth that we've seen here in the industry, that we've seen from M for MM and so on. Let me also start by, saying that Roz couldn't be with us today, but she's out working on a couple other things, and we just wanted to send our light and love to her. And she'll be back with us, I'm sure, next week. But I'm holding it down today. I guess that's what my role is as the co-host. When the host can't be here, it's my job to make sure that the show goes on, right? So we're gonna keep it going today. As y'all know, Fridays we have some fire conversations. So I hope y'all ready today. I'm bringing on some of my favorite people in the space, people that are both friends, confidants, experts that I go to in the space. And so, without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and start bringing some of them up to the stage. And today in particular, I decided to bring on a couple of our board members for MM because, our board, we're kind of quiet. And that's partly, my fault. I haven't done a good job of, being a great cheerleader to let everybody know what a wonderful board we have. But I tell you, our organization is, very, very thankful for these gentlemen and everybody who sits on our board as well, for everything that they do, not just for the organization, but for themselves and their businesses, but for their communities as well. I think back to a couple years back, I wrote an article for LinkedIn, and I haven't written in a while, but I remember writing an article about, where are the black men in cannabis? And I always say that typically, if you want to find the black men in cannabis, go to the community because that's where they are. If they're not actively working on a project, they are in the community doing something to build some type of value for our community. So let's get to it, man. Mr. Matt Bowman, I'll start with you, brother, because you've been on the board. I think you might be our longest standing board member at this point. I have to go back and think about everybody who's on there, but you've been there almost since the very, very start. So, Matt, tell people who you are, where you are, and, kind of what you do and a little bit about your background as well.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Eric Range. I come to cannabis from the military side, flying jets off of aircraft carriers, and longtime friend of our founder, Roz McCarthy, and big believer in cannabis. So I wore my Everlast because I was telling Brother Range that this is about a fight. We have to, in advocacy, in expungement, in economics and entrepreneurship, everything we do, we really have to make sure that we are the vanguard, right? The vanguard going forward, make background. I'm here in Florida, but I'm also in South Carolina. So I'm a farmer. I grow hemp. I'm a businessman. So we have a farm winery. But at the end of the day, I'm a community person. And it doesn't matter whether it's from Seattle or whether it's out on the West Coast, like my brother Jamal. We're all in this together.
I'm muted. One thing you didn't mention, man, and I can't let that go by, your years of service to our country in the military, man. You are a veteran, and it's something that we as an organization celebrate. And I know that you're definitely proud of your service as well. But I want others to celebrate that too. So, tell them about your service in the military.
It's so many veterans in here. I mean, not only are we veterans, but we are truly combat veterans, door kickers, bomb droppers. So we come to this cannabis space with all of our veteran credentials completely checked in the box. So whether it's talking about working with the Veterans Administration, doing research on veterans and cannabis around the country, M for MM on the veteran side, Brother Leo, Brother Antoine, the sisters who are involved, we're really leaning forward to make sure that veterans have a place and that cannabis can be used as a medicine for PTSD and other things that happen as a result of serving our country. But, you know, we bring that same fire, that same energy from the military to M4MM. And like I say, I'm just happy to be on the board, happy to serve.
Absolutely, man.
And if you need someone to fly a jet for you, holler at a brother, because we can do that too. So we do it all.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. Hey, listen, I'm still waiting on my invite, you know, on the private jet. I see you from time to time. Y'all, you in a group, y'all go take out the private jet. That's all right. I'm waiting on my invitation. And I want you to tell that story about our private jet situation as well. But before we do that, I want to one invite Mr. Jamal Hackler, who has also been with M4MM and on our board for quite some time. You know, he's a quiet kept secret that we have. You know what I mean? He's been doing fantastic work in the space. And then we also have another guest, and we'll get to her in just a moment. But Jamal, go ahead, introduce yourself, tell people who you are, where you are, and then we'll get into some more.
Okay, I'm Jamal Hackler, man. I've been growing cannabis for over 30 years now. I'm on the West Coast out here in California, and I reside in Seattle. I started growing cannabis, you know, when I was about 10 years old in North Carolina, you know, just a handful of seeds, started germinating them, started figuring things out from there, you know, and my main cause for cannabis is I want to be, you know, a champion for cannabis and the community, like Brother Matt was saying, you know, and be able to bring the cause forward, because there's a lot of us that are being left out of the industry. You know, we need that social equity inclusion. We need to have diversity programs and stuff. And, you know, I've reached out to a lot of the representatives in different states, like North Carolina's opening up. So they've got House Bill, you know, 617. So I've already reached out to some of the constituents that, you know, pretty much wrote the bill and proposed it to the House so it can be ratified. So I've already reached out to them, you know, preemptively, because, you know, I'm on the board and I wanted to make sure that there's some inclusion for minorities in North Carolina, you know, so we're going to be doing that. And, you know, I'm just glad to be here. I'm excited, you know, for the industry, and I'm excited to be a board member for M4MM, because it gives us, you know, an ability to do things others can't, and be able to go places and say things with some serious backup, you know, behind you. You know, you can say, well, we like Brother Matt was saying, we've got jets, we got planes, we got door kickers, we got bomb layers, we got everything we need. But, you know, the most important thing is that we need inclusion. So, you know, I'm just glad to be here to be included today. So, you know, thanks for having me, Eric.
Absolutely, man. And we're going to dive into some of those stories and stuff as well, because you mentioned something I want us to talk about today as well. But, you know, we had another guest on here. And for those of you who are just joining us, thank y'all for joining CannaTalk. We love when y'all are coming on. Make sure you hit that share button, invite other people to join this conversation. If you are a part of M4MM, or you know people who should be a part of them, tap them in. Make sure that they come on and check us out and join the conversation. Yeah, as y'all know, we have great conversations every single week. And so we want them to be a part of it and not to miss out on it. So make sure you hit that share button. This next guest, you know, I'm kind of biased. Like, you know, I have to try to curb my introduction, because I gave Matt and Jamal, you know, all right introduction. So I don't want to be biased and give this one, you know, an even greater introduction. But, you know, Tamika Range, she's no longer a part of the M4MM board, but she is a former board member. And of course, she is my better half and wife. And so I invited her to come on as well today, because, again, we're talking about, you know, where M4MM came from and where we are today. And she is very much a part of that conversation as well. So Miss Tamika Range, if you could, you know, I'm sorry, Miss Attorney Range, if you could please unmute yourself and, you know, tell us who you are and you know, what you got. Don't get too far into things, but, you know, tell us who you are and you know, what you're doing.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tamika Range. I am the other half, not the better half, but the other half of the Range household. So I am definitely a cannabis advocate. I've been in the space for about 5-6 years now. And I'm an attorney in the space. I have my own practice where I help companies and minorities that want to get into the industry navigate their way through. I'm the wife of the board chair, so I definitely serve as supporting the organization when you see him all over the place. And then I have also recently taken a role with cookies. So I'm super excited about that. I'm not going to go into the position just yet, but we'll be announcing it on our social media. So I'm very excited about what 2021 has brought thus far, and to be celebrating 5 years with Minorities for Medical Marijuana. Year one was absolutely, just thinking about the year one where it was just an inception, is just an idea, and all of the grandiose things that Roz was putting on the table that she wanted to do, and to see where the organization is 5 years later. Roz is a rock star. Eric is a rock star. And just seeing what Minorities for Medical Marijuana has done over this time, both domestically and internationally, within a short amount of time, for what has been gone on. It is spectacular. So to have dope people like Jamal and Matt, I can't wait to get to the vineyard. And Jamal, your brain is just, we've had conversations before where I'm just like, wow, in terms of the genetic side. So just to have all these awesome resources and such great energy pouring in to an organization that is solely focused on minorities getting access and getting educated on this subject matter, I couldn't be any more prouder to be in line, and I feel honored to be this close to such greatness.
Absolutely. So, sticking with that, because all of our guests that we brought on this month have been people who are, attached to the organization or associated with the organization. And we've asked them the question of, where were you 5 years ago? And, what was it like even before you got in contact with M4MM? And then what was your first, I guess, kind of introduction to the organization? So we'll start with you, Tamika, because I kind of know the story, but I've never heard you share it from your perspective. So I very, very curious to hear this, but go ahead.
So I guess 5-6 years ago, I had, sorry, this was the introduction to the industry, is your question? Or
Well,
to the
just
organization?
you
Okay.
personally,
So,
where were you 5 years ago? And then on top of that, where, what was your introduction to the organization?
okay. So 5 years ago, about 5-6 years ago, Eric had started Art 420, our art company that puts on art shows and presents cannabis-inspired art in a fine art setting, in an art gallery. And we were traveling around with the art. And as we traveled and went to conferences, we realized that there were no Black people in the industry. And so when we came back, the second year we did our art show, we said, you know what, because it was an annual show. And the second year, we said, we are going to have an event that really puts out information to the community, because we need to get minorities in the community into the cannabis industry. You know what? Everyone loves to go to events. So we're already doing an art show. There's art, cannabis all over the walls. Who wouldn't want to come to an event like this and learn about how to get into the cannabis industry? And so we had a black market brunch, and then we started to put out feelers for people who were already in the industry. And I'm not sure how exactly we got connected with Roz, but I knew as soon as we saw what she was doing, we said, all right, come and speak at our black market brunch. And then from there, so Eric and I are serial idea people. We'll get an idea, we'll run with it. We're partners in crime and business. And so when we saw that there were no minorities in the industry, we said, all right, we're going to need to start a nonprofit. And so we had started to jot down the ideas of the nonprofit at the same time we were traveling with the Art 420. And then when we was presented about Minorities for Medical Marijuana, we were like, oh, I don't think we need to start this nonprofit. This There's already someone doing it, and they're already focused in exactly where we want to be. So there was one meeting, and I remember being at that one meeting, and the woo-saw came over me with what Roz was putting on the table. I said, oh my gosh, we don't have to carry this weight. And I just stepped back. I took a breath, and I was just happy that there was a Black woman that was just shouting to the high heaven, minorities need to be in the cannabis industry. And we just been rocking and rolling since.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We had started having conversations about starting a nonprofit to educate minorities and so on. And then we met Roz and heard that vision and just saw the ball of energy that she had that was coming with it. And we were like, listen, if you're going to do that, then we just going to commit to riding your coattails and supporting you. And I'll tell you, that's one of
What
the
do you
best
need?
decisions.
Anything
Right.
you need.
It's been one of the best decisions ever because, you know, what it has done for our personal businesses, the conversations it has allowed us to participate in. Like Jamal said, you know, we get to come in and stand up on the shoulders of an organization that is well respected versus just coming in, you know, as a stranger to a conversation, hoping to be able to get heard, you know, and it matters. It really, really does matter. And so, you know, to that point, you know, Matt, talk about, you know, same question for you. Where were you 5 years ago? And what was your first introduction to the organization? And again, you being a veteran, you were, I mean, I know you were very much involved with a lot of veteran things. So talk about that. We got to unmute you.
Years ago, 2015, you know, I'll say it like this. The late, great Tupac Shakur said, even though it might seem heaven sent, America's not ready for a Black president. So President Barack Obama's term was coming to an end. And we kind of had this feeling of, where do you go from here? We just had a Black president. As much as we hope that the world would change, it hadn't. And then Roz I hear on social media that Roz is pushing minorities for medical marijuana. So I called her and I said, hey, listen, however I can help, I'll help. And then she goes, great, Matt, I'm just starting this. The only people I got is about 5 people, one of which is this guy named Eric Range. And I'm like, you know, I'm like on LinkedIn and I'm Googling you. And I'm like, okay, Art 420. So I pick up the phone and even then Roz was vetting board members, right? So even though I've known her for years, you just ain't gonna get on the board of minorities for medical marijuana. So she has me talk to you to do my board interview. And the bulk of that time we spent talking about Art 420 and the intersection of art and cannabis and really Roz's vision and how the smartest thing and the most productive thing was for all of us who had a vision and a passion in cannabis to get behind her vision, because her vision included everything I wanted to do on the veterans, everything I wanted to do for the farmers, everything I wanted to do for community, for criminal. And so I was coming to Roz from the perspective of this organization called the African American Drug Policy Coalition. And it's a group of about 500 attorneys. And so that's kind of how I connected with Roz. And look, it's just been a great ride from there. We talked earlier about aviation. You know, my most memorable M for MM story is being in Tallahassee at the bar after we've already spent the whole day lobbying the Florida legislature to add some provisions to support minorities in cannabis, and running into who of all peoples, the attorney John Morgan for the people. And you know, he fell in love with Roz and M for MM, and he was like, listen, I'm flying my personal private jet back to Orlando. Do y'all want to go? And Roz is like, well, I drove up here, and I'm shaking my head. I'm like, yes. And you're there too, and it's me, you, and And then Ross says, yes, I'll go. And you said, yes, you'll go. And then we had our little private huddle, and they're like, okay, how are we going to get the car back? And I'm like, don't worry about the car. I got the car. Let's get on that jet with John Morgan. And so I'll never forget standing in that $1 million private terminal in Tallahassee and watching the two of you walk on board that private jet. And that's when I realized that M for MM, not just now, but M for MM forever. The team that we have, the energy, the providence, the Most High looking over for us. So anyway, that's my most memorable M for MM.
Matt, it's crazy. Like I remember everything, getting on the private jet and everything. But you know what I remember most about that day?
What's that?
Because you're right. I felt like, us, being invited to go ride back with John Morgan on his private jet was like the icing on the top of the cake. But we had a fantastic day at the Capitol that day. And it really solidified, I think, our organization as being someone that was not just well liked, but trusted. And that goes a long way. If we were trusted by many, where people were asking us, senators and representatives, asking us for our opinion, asking us to participate in the actual writing of legislation and so on. And I remember after that long day, we went down and we were actually meeting another one of our board members, Christian Bax, at a popular restaurant that's literally right next door to the Capitol. And we chose to sit outside that day. And I remember it was me, you, Roz, and Christian sitting at the table. And I don't know what it was about this day, but on that day, it seemed like everybody passed by our table and everybody stopped and talked to us. From Representative like Guillermo Smith stopped by that day. I remember Senator Gracie, Commissioner Nikki Freed stopped by that day. It was just like, and I remember even the wait staff and everybody else is like, well, who the hell is this? Are these people sitting at this table where all of these big shots are walking in, and before they come in to even sit down, they're stopping and having full-on conversations. There's pictures being taken. And I do remember that day sitting back and, retrospectively at the end of the night, just being like, wow, wow. To be, and we were only at that time maybe about 2 years in, but it really showed that, like you said, that this organization is not, just, for here and now, but, for the long term, and that we can be a part of this discussion for a long period of time. So, Jamal, I'm gonna turn to you now. Same question. Where were you 5 years ago? And how did you first get connected? Because you, like you said, you mentioned, and then we're gonna get into that afterward. You mentioned being in the game for 30 years, and you don't look a day over 29. We're gonna have to address that, right? But
plenty of weed,
right? But you've been in the game longer than any of us, and so where were you 5 years, and 5 years ago, and then what was your first connection to M4MM?
Well, I was working, in California, up in Humboldt, 5 years ago, and I had saw Roz a couple times on, I think it was Forbes for 40, and I seen her in High Times magazine, a couple of different things. I'm thinking she's doing things. I kept thinking if I could only, maybe get up to her level, then maybe I can, have a better platform. One day, like you guys come out of the woodwork, like the Avengers come calling. I said, oh, they picked me. They picked me. I'm like, wow, and then all of a sudden, I'm going places, flying places, doing things, and I'm a part of something, a bigger collective that helps not only my self-esteem, but it helps confirm where I am in life. So it kind of helped me give back to my community, at the same time receive things from my community, like positive infusions, reaffirming who we are as a collective, and then still going forth and saying, hey, I'm a part of this group, and this group has dug deep and found some of the best talent, some of the best people that are deserving for their position in life, and I see it all over the country, and I see it going international. And even when I first started, there's still been a lot of impactful things that M4MM that they're doing that, I'm still amazed by. you know, I'll go by, you know, your page and a couple other pages, Roz's page, and I'll see, you know, what's going on. And, you know, just yesterday, and I know for a fact it had a lot to do with being on the board. I had USA Today reach out to me and says, well, you know, Jamal, we want to use you as being an affiliate partner. I'm thinking, wow, I got to go tell Eric and them. And all of a sudden you called me this morning. I'm like, well, God is good all the time, you know? So, so, so it was a blessing. So it's almost like, you know, I'm going to be doing some correspondence, you know, giving out a lot of information, but it helps me put M for MM in a place where they put me. They put me out front, then I want to put them out front now, you know, and so it becomes a national syndicated thing, which you guys already have, but it helps me grow. And so, like, again, 5 years ago, you know, I was still doing traditional grows. I was doing some, you know, that were medical, some that were Prop 215, and you know, I was making a living, but it really wasn't impactful. You know, I had a reputation, I had grown a lot of cannabis, worked a lot of places, but after I became a board member, it kind of gave me my own self-esteem. Like, maybe what I think does matter. You know, maybe what I feel does matter to some people, and some people can maybe use it, because I fought for a long time feeling like I was the only black in the industry that was accountable, making something happen. All of a sudden, I was exposed to a whole world, you know, of minorities that are making impact, that are doing great things in cannabis. And it made me feel like that I was struggling along my timeline, unknowing of other people that's running the same concurrent timeline with me. And all of a sudden it converges and boom, here's M for MM. So it was just like, you know, working without question, having my doubts, and all of a sudden you guys gave me a lot of purpose. So that's what I can say, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you know, I think, like you said before, it's a lot of what I got from what you said, a lot of serendipity, right? Like the right place, right time, things that, you know, just start to align. And you know, I think about how I first came across you, you know, just being on LinkedIn, and you know, following you on LinkedIn and so on. And then people don't know you're like our resident, you know, cannabis expert grower and geneticist and all of that. You know, when I have questions about this stuff, you know, that go beyond what I know, the person I call is right here, Jamal Hackler. You know
I'm
what
with
I
you.
mean? I'm like, Jamal, all right, so I just got off the call with this guy, and this is what he told me, and this is what he said. Now it sounds, you know, straight up wacky and kooky dukes to me, but tell me, you know, let me know. And Jamal has just been there to, you know, kind of help me be like, you know, yeah, he tried to sell you a bill of goods, you know what I mean? But or that person, no, he's legit and he know what he's talking about. And so
Yeah.
I think that is, you know, just such a key thing. And I love that, you know, how you said how the organization has kind of put you out there, right? Like I think back to when before I met Roz, Tamika and I had started Art 420, you know what I mean? And we were already in the space. We were already started making, you know, connections, you know, meeting the who's who in our state, and you know, building those relationships and building that rapport with people, and so on. I mean, I just think about I was just with Jody James from Florida Cannabis Action Network, Florida Can here in Florida. They're the oldest organization, you know, that's been fighting for cannabis in our state, right?
Mm.
And you know, just with Jody the other day, and she reminded me that she was at the very first Art 420, and she made buttons with my kids about,
Wow.
you know, cannabis legalization. And I completely forgot about that. But again, it goes back to, you know, where we were 5 years ago. You know, we were planning our art shows and connecting with people and creating this safe space for people to bring their grandmother, for people to bring their kids to learn about this plant. We brought our
Yeah.
kids, and you know, they learned about the plant that day as well. And so, but then the organization came along. I met Roz, and you know, Roz being a non-consumer, you know, she was coming from a place of being led, of vision, of, you know, wanting to make sure that our communities weren't left out of the conversation. And I felt like, you know, and I say it all the time, I tell her all the time, our hearts have always been in the right place. And I think that's why we've seen the success we have. Her coming to the space, not, you know, being a consumer, that means you got to really get to really fight for this plant and not be a consumer of it. You got to love some people for real, right? Like, because the stuff we go through fighting for people is not always easy. You know what I mean? It is not always easy. And you know, it's just funny how for her not to be a consumer, to have so much passion about this plant. And, you know, so, let's spend a few moments just celebrating Roz, you know what I mean? And
Yes,
just
sir.
the for me, and I've told her this before, I'm a student of history, right? And I study the civil rights movement. And, one of my favorite characters from the civil rights movement is a lady by the name of, if you've never heard this name before, go Google her, go learn about her. A lady by the name of Ella Baker. Okay. Ella Baker is not somebody a lot of people knew about or even, quite celebrated, unless, again, you really studied the history. But Ella Baker was that individual who was teaching students how to participate in the nonviolent movement, teaching students how to conduct the sit-in, movement, and so on. She was the one who was like, if you were readying the troops, for this fight that we were having. And so from the time I met Roz, that's how I've always held her in that esteem, as somebody who has been readying the troops for this fight, because this fight is just beginning and we got a long way to go. But she's been teaching and training people like myself and others how we have to be a part of this fight, and so on. So, let's go round robin real quick and talk about, your take on Roz and who she is and her position in history, because I believe she is definitely a part of history.
Well, for me, I tell you, I'm also a student of history, but I'm also a student of culture. And, for American culture, you frequently talk about the Matrix. And Roz is like somebody out the Matrix. I've literally seen Roz be in two places in the same day. And I'm like, okay, wait, how can you be in Boston and DC? I'm so confused. That is the end of the passion that she brings to this great work. And so that for me is how I put Roz in context. And when, 50 years, when we look back and this plant is a part of American culture, Roz is going to be someone that young people do book reports about. And they're going to say, how in that short time was she able to do so much with so little? Because, a lot of this was self-financed, especially in the beginning. This is her coming out of her pocket, going from Boston to DC, coming out of her pocket to go to the West Coast. And so anyway, my hat is off. She truly is my
brother. We couldn't even get gas money to go from Orlando to Tallahassee. I'm telling y'all, the struggle was, and people don't know this, man. We used to scrape together some pennies and get our way up to Tallahassee, and there were times where we'd be, in a hotel. I'm on the couch, she in the bed, but you know what I mean? We got a little hole in the wall hotel, doing whatever we had to do to fight for people. And, again, like you said, you when you're that up close and personal with people, you start to see them in a different light. And it always sticks in my mind. She is a non-consumer doing this. Like for the life of me, I'm like, you're fighting for this plant and you don't even use it. Yeah. What about you, Tamika? And you've been cutting out, so I don't know if we froze again, but what about you? How do you? Okay, we lost it. Jamal, go ahead. How do you see Roz?
I look at Roz as being like somebody, like you were saying, that can rally the troops, because she's taught me a lot just by my recent exposure over the last year. And I started writing letters to different congressmen and different senators and representatives right after I met Roz, because Roz gave me a spark of individual fire. She made me feel like, okay, your words do matter. What you say does matter. And so, once she gave me that belief, I started to use my network a lot, because, I had, over 30,000 followers. I've had over 50,000, but I never knew what to do with them. I let them coagulate, give them a news feed, kind of catch up on some current events. But then Roz started making me understand that, everything's happening for a reason. So even with North Carolina, I started realizing that Roz is like you guys were saying, like the Matrix being two places at one time. Now with this M for M and all these chapters, Roz is everywhere, and her being everywhere gives me the authority to go into North Carolina and say, okay, well, I want to make sure the social equity piece looks good inside of your bill. I want to take a look at the bill because I never read a bill until I met Roz. Then I read the whole bill, then started realizing, well, they left this out, this out, this out. Then I wrote him and says, okay, we're going to have a sit down, da, 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 da. And then that's when I'm going to say, hey, Roz, I'm just going to set the meeting up because I want to make sure that everybody's included because, far too often we see a lot of these states open up and they're about the money, which is true, but they forget about the constituents that they actually voted for the measure, for it to come into place. And so it's just too commonplace that a lot of these companies that come in have millions of dollars. They'll take the five first applicants have got over 20 million. Everybody else has to sit for the next 2 or 3 years while these guys are raking up all the funds, setting up the infrastructure. With someone like Roz, I knew it was going on. She pushed me into saying, well, hey, that ain't right. You need to make sure you get in there. If you know it's happening, you see it's happening, and they're creating a generational gap of wealth. That's what happened. Well, we're going to go ahead and start on Monopoly, go ahead and go around 3 or 4 times, then you get to go. We done already bought up Park Place, Boardwalk, North Carolina, and all these. All the railroads too. But you can go ahead. Now it's your turn. You see what I'm saying? She made me understand it was like that. So that's when I started to, get a little more stout in who I was working with, taking work, but I still started realizing that that Roz is like a catalyst, for change, for inclusion, for social equity. I mean, and so, even still to this day, I'm feeling the impacts of her. And we haven't worked together maybe 6 months. I'm still working with 2 clients in Illinois getting those guys licensed, and they're right on the verge of licensing. And eventually, through Roz, again, I'm turning those guys back into MM to become a catalyst and a push for M for MM. And then eventually I want to do that for North Carolina. But as this industry matures and as we mature with Roz and she starts giving us more information, we're going to become more super soldiers, more understood, more respected, and then we'll have that much more of an influence. So that's what I'm working on with Roz, is making sure that, I'm there when she needs me, and making sure that I can come through. But at the same time, we want her to remain the same. She's always been a fighter for justice. She's never looked away. She's one person that will not turn away. She will not turn. I don't care what's going on. She will not turn away. I'm one of those people that, I will turn away and I come back. Oh, it's back to normal. I knew what was going on. I didn't want to say anything. She's one of those people that won't turn away in this generation. So that's why I'm behind her, because I believe in her a lot more than sometimes I believe in my own abilities to get stuff done. So I'm like, she's counting on me, then it gets done.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead. We got you back. Go ahead.
Yes, I love the Monopoly reference because we play Monopoly. Can you guys hear me clearly? Okay, we play Monopoly with the kids, and I'm gonna get to Boardwalk first. I'm gonna buy up the block. I'm gonna buy up that most expensive block first. That's my strategy. And so, but with Roz, she's such a boss because she works on the social equity side with applicants that are over on Mediterranean, that are over on Oriental, that haven't even gotten past the jail. And she's also able to flip it and go on Park Ave and say, listen, I know that you guys are comfortable on Park Ave, but you need to go back and give back to those on Baltic. You really need to go over there on St. James. Or, those fellas on New York Ave, they may seem like your competitor, but they're a social equity applicant and they just need some help. So she has that power to bring those groups together. And then she's also powerful in a sense that, Jamal, you're on the West Coast. We're on the East Coast. She is bringing coast to coast together in an industry where we are rivals. There's always rivals of whose cannabis is better. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from New York. So is it South? Is it North? Is it West? And she's like, listen, I don't care which y'all are gonna argue about, but in the industry, we're all working together. And that teamwork is so crucial, because with Minorities for Medical Marijuana, just from listening, the people that are listening today, just listen to the individual, listen to what Jamal said, listen to what Matt said, listen to what Eric said. If you listen to the underlying story, it's really that the trust builds relationships. And in Minorities for Medical Marijuana, that's built across the country. So you could have a situation where there's 3 board members at working the Hill for an entire day. And what y'all don't understand, advocacy is work. It's hard work. It is brutal. It is physically brutal. It is mentally brutal, and it's costly. They're not getting paid to do this. So when the glitz and glam comes, everybody wants to be a part of it because we work really hard. So imagine MM doesn't have a budget. There's no big money coming in. And then there's an opportunity to get on a private plane to fly home. And one of the board members is like, listen, you guys go. I'm a handle on the ground right here. Y'all don't worry about it. Y'all go and represent. Like, that is an unselfish, just a giving just for the benefit of the whole. So the teamwork, that it's beyond putting a price on it. The Minorities for Medical Marijuana team, because it's always, and this from the jump, this is from the start, it's always been about the community. How are we doing this to benefit the community? Yes, we are individually going to benefit because of the access and where we can get into in the conversations. But when we get in those conversations, it's about the benefiting the community. And no matter where you fall in the organization, Roz is very, very clear on making sure that that is your intention. And I guess that's why when people come in and they're vetted by Eric, I wouldn't want to be vetted by Eric, and we've been together 20 years now.
I am not that bad, y'all. I hear everybody telling these stories about their first phone call with me. And Ross sends me, and I'm the pit bull. I'm not that bad, y'all. But I tell you, I will tell you this, and I'm unapologetic about this. Everybody I do vet, we do have a conversation about protecting the organization, because Roz and I both see this organization as being much bigger than any one individual, including ourselves. And so we do have to have that conversation. And so, yeah, if you ever are on that other end of the phone where you've been told that you need to talk with the board chair before you can come on board, know that it's because I love this organization way too much. I have put in my blood, sweat, and tears for this. Roz has, and so many other people have. And more importantly than that, you know, again, I go back to what I told y'all, man. I'm a student of history, and I know from history that it's organizations like Minorities for Medical Marijuana that were at the table to move the needle during the 60s and during the Civil Rights Movement. Even before the 60s and the Civil Rights Movement, you had folks and organizations that were in place, you know, laying the groundwork so that the 60s and that Civil Rights Movement could actually happen. And that's what M4MM is about. We are laying the groundwork for a fight that we know is not, you know, it's just getting started. We're really at the tip of the iceberg. We have not reached federal legalization yet, y'all. We got a long fight ahead of ourselves. People like to ask the question of, you know, what will the impact be of legalization? Well, I flip that question and say, well, hell, we still haven't even quite figured out or assessed what the impact of prohibition has been on communities of color. So we can't even begin to think about what the impact of legalization is going to be until we begin to unpack, you know, what has already been done. And so that's what we're here to do. We're here to set that stage. You know, Roz won't be here running the organization forever, nor will I. You know what I mean? We are, again, like I said, preparing the troops to continue this fight that we know is going to be around for the next 40, 50 years. This will become a part of American culture in a much greater way. And we have to continue to be diligent and remain at that table. So, you know, let's get into something else really quick. I want to talk about you guys individually because you guys are all so amazing. I'll start with Tamika because she's the, you know, the lady on the panel today, but also because she's a former board member, and also because we have something coming up with her her new role and hat that she's wearing. We had some things in the works even before she, officially took that role. But now she's coming into this role, is working out perfectly. On June 5th, for those of you out in LA, in the Cali side of things, Infra MM is holding an expungement clinic. And so there is time for you still to get signed up and pre-registered. We want you to pre-register so that we can understand a little bit more about what's going on with your individual case. But we are offering expungements free of charge to the community. We've partnered with groups like Cookies and others to be able to bring this as a free service to the community, help people to continue to get their records cleaned. And then we also, this is a part of our project Clean Slate, in which we do some wraparound services. We even have an internal social worker that works for the organization, that works with everybody we put through expungement. They work with them for 6 months to a year with the wraparound services, helping them with the other aspects of their life that they may need some assistance with, so that we can truly give them a clean slate and they can re-enter society in positive and meaningful ways. So Tamika, you want to talk a little bit about that from the cookie side, from your hat, and what you guys are, and again, I know you're just getting started, so there may be some stuff that you're still digesting in your new role and whatnot, but tell us why Cookies would even get involved with something like this. We gotta unmute you. We might have lost her again. It seems like her signal might be going in and out. So are you still there with us, Tamika? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right, we might have lost her. All right, I don't know. All right, so we'll keep it moving, man. If she comes back in, we'll get some take for her. But again, for those of you who are in the LA area, definitely, we've been putting the flyers out on our social media. If you go to our Instagram, there's a link that'll take you to the website, so that you can pre-register for that. And yes, I know other people are like, hey, we need this in our state. We need this, in our city. We are going to be going around the country. We've been doing quite a few expungement clinics already this year, and we got several more that we're currently planning. So sure enough, we'll be in a city or a state near you soon enough, but definitely bear with us on that. So Matt, tell us where are you right now? What do you got? What are you working on? I know you got some hemp stuff going on and so on. Tell everybody what you're currently working on, any projects, how they can connect with you, support you, because again, we're all business owners in this space, and we got to support one another.
This fighter shirt for nothing. I answer my phone, so it's Matt Bowman on Facebook. It's Matt Bowman FL on Instagram. And it's Matthew.R.Bowman, MatthewRBowman.com on the website. So if all else fails, you can just
Matt, we missed the start of what you were saying in terms of how people can get. We had you muted, so if you could real quick run through that again for me.
Sure. Yeah, I was just saying I answer my phone, so it's Matt Bowman on Facebook, Matt Bowman FL on Instagram, and MatthewRBowman.com on the website. 352-234-0411 is the number. And my thing that I'm working on right now is this concept of the transition from hemp to its first cousin, marijuana. And so on the agriculture side, tomorrow we'll be in South Carolina, outside of Charleston, for art in agriculture, one of 3 farms in the state that have been picked to be the focus. So we'll be doing a hemp clinic tomorrow. So if you're in the Charleston area, come out to Roundo, check us out on social media. If you're not local, you can tune in, and we'll be talking about the entire process of growing hemp. I'm not an expert like my brother. I'll probably be calling him for some advice on genetics and how that works. But I firmly believe that if you start with hemp, which is legal, and just go from there. My 12-year-old son is growing. So, in 30 years, he will be like Brother Jamal. He will say, I've been with this plant since I was 12. So that's what we'll be doing. So again, Art and Agriculture, South Carolina. It's at 17144 Augusta Highway, Round Oak, South Carolina, halfway between Charleston and Columbia. And that's what's going on for this Memorial Day weekend.
Absolutely, man. That's such a, say again, going back to my opening statement, where you want to find the black men in cannabis, they're in their community. We got a holiday weekend, and my brother is still going up there to teach and educate people. But it's a lifestyle. It's not just a work week type of deal. It's a lifestyle, and we appreciate you for all you're doing. Matt, do you have any products on the market right now that people can tap in, whether it be wholesale business to business or even direct to consumer?
Yeah. So on the cannabis side, no, I won't push wine on this particular broadcast. We do have.
No, go ahead. Tell people about the wine.
Okay. So listen. There's 4 W's, and one day I'm gonna sit down with Tamika and Jamal. We'll talk about the 4 W's. Weed is one, cannabis. The other is wine. And so if you're in Florida, come check us out. Micanopy Winery outside of Gainesville. So we have a 17-acre farm winery. I call it Paradise, so you can come out, check it out. And then in South Carolina, we have Bowman Vineyards, which is a 60-acre farm winery, former tobacco farm is what it is. So come out and check us out. And so we have products there, muscadine wine, jellies, peppers, all kind of things. And if you don't drink wine, if you don't smoke, if you're not necessarily 420 friendly, just come out and recover, right? We're all coming out of this pandemic world. Memorial Day weekend. Miami is sold out, so don't try to go to Miami. Believe me, I looked at the hotels already. But come out to the farm and check it out. So that's what I would push. That's what I would encourage. The last thing I'll tell you is infrastructure is big, and so I am doing some work on the government side. That's originally how I met Roz, is doing government contracting work. So those are all areas. But at the end of the day, all those areas funnel into an industry that's going to make cryptocurrency and Bitcoin seem like nothing, and that is cannabis. Cannabis will make money from now till forever once it goes legal. And so if you're on this call and you're not a member of Minorities for Medical Marijuana, take a look at the banner. Join us. The people that you're going to meet, world class. If you don't get nothing else but get to hang out with people like Sister Tamika and Brother Eric and Brother Jamal, that's money well spent.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And Jamal, what about you, man? What are you working on these days? And I know you stay project up, man. Like every time I call Jamal, I'm like, yo, what are you doing at this moment? Do you got a couple minutes? He's like, well, I'm in the middle. We looking at some blueprints right now. We got this going on. So what are you currently working on, brother?
Man, well, Corey and I came together with THC Creative Solutions. So you can look that up online, thccreativesolutions.com. We're actually talking to a company down in Colombia, down in Medellin. They're talking about setting up a genome project. They're talking about donating maybe 10 or 20 strands of cannabis to those guys to get those guys going. And then I'm actually working on something for Barcelona. I've been on the phone talking to a couple of people that may want to sit in, so I can go over there and talk theory, be able to teach a few classes, and teach them how to, bring some different genome and be able to start to isolate genome and, create better and stronger plants, So it's been a good year. We're still holding off on Puerto Rico because, it's just been a few things, political things that we're working on with them, sign the contract, man. No, but we were just trying to make sure that we get out here this year and make some things happen. So,
hey,
but
Jamal,
Eric,
but we now have a chapter in Puerto Rico, and our chapter president for Puerto Rico is on, and she can definitely help open up some doors in terms of folks on the ground there for you. So definitely connect,
wow.
Mariella. Make sure I get you connected to Jamal. But go ahead.
Yeah, there's a company over there called ProCanna. We're supposed to be working with those guys here pretty quick, and we're supposed to be making some genetics with those guys. And they're working on funding, some government funding. So I guess it's just touch and go with those guys, but it's still in the air. But my main thing I'm working on this year is I want to get into Michigan. Because I looked at the licenses, they're only like $6,000. That's not a lot to ask. The real estate's really low. I've been doing demographical studies, so I think the next thing that I'm going to be doing is trying to get into Michigan. I don't know why, but it's been calling me heavy. Between creating new CBD or hemp genetics with these cannabis varieties. Talk to a European guy that says, well, if you start focusing, and I kind of knew already, focusing on high CBD strands with cannabis as a base strand or a base foundation to create that tissue, you know. And so some guys are still wanting to create genetics that are going to make fuel and gas and different fibers and textiles. So it'll be a busy year this year, but I'd like to be able to sit down, with a couple guys from M4MM, and see if we can't work something out.
Our team there in Michigan is also strong, super strong. Simone Cason, Eric Foster are both located right there in Michigan. Very much involved with everything that's going on in Michigan. I mean, to the point where Michigan will have the first in-state cannabis stock exchange, and it was created by none other than Simone Cason, our chapter president, right there in Michigan. Eric Foster and Banks and Company. Eric Foster is now our official national director of policy. So policy guru right there, him and Banks and Company. They are essentially a lobbying arm. Let me not box anybody into anything. They are much more than that. They are, a government relations firm. Let's put it that way. They do a lot of things from that standpoint. So again, Michigan is a place where we have a very, very good, presence and so on. So let's definitely make connect some dots there. And Tamika, going back to you, before we get to wrap up a little bit, tell us a little bit. I know we lost you. We were talking a little bit about LA and so on. Anything you want to tell us about LA from the cookie standpoint as we get ready to wrap up? Hold on, we got to unmute you. I think.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you. And I ain't throwing no shade, but we lost you again. Hey, Cookies, if y'all listening, boy, y'all better get some internet going out there at that facility, bro. Y'all dropping too many Zoom calls and stuff. I ain't throwing no shade. I'm just saying.
They got a Tacoma location, need some help
right.
too.
Hey, listen, y'all need some internet, yeah. Talk to the internet.
I think it's shade. I think there's some shade.
Well, go ahead before we lose you again.
I don't know if you guys can hear me, but June 5th, come check.
Hey, listen. I'm gonna speak for her because we clearly we gonna work on it. We gonna start a GoFundMe for Cookies and no, nothing but love for y'all. I'm excited for her in this new role and so on. But yeah,
Well,
listen,
it's going to be held at home.
You breaking up. You breaking up, sweetheart. You breaking up. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. But it's all good though. You know what I mean? I told her when she accepted this role, I said, listen, now I get it. Cookies we part of Team Cookies now. But and I'm saying this publicly. But don't get it twisted. M4MM is still gonna do his job. So we're gonna hold y'all feet to the fire when we need to. But no, we're excited to partner with Cookies on our expungement clinic. Excited for Tamika to be in that role. I just know what value Cookies is getting by having her in the platform again, just to be able to continue to do good work and continue to for us as an organization to partner with organizations like Cookies who again, you can feel however you want to feel about their company and their brand. And again, I know everywhere you go is different, but we partner with organizations like Cookies and others to work with them on how they engage communities of color, how they engage those communities that bore the brunt of the war on drugs. And so again, we're just super excited for Tamika and her new role. Just congratulations for her. And we look forward to working closer, even more closely now as an organization. You were going to say something, Matt?
No, Eric. I was just listening, and I'm talking to everything we do. I think you said at the beginning the families are in there. So I was telling the children, make sure y'all stay listening. So they were listening the whole time. So I just wanted to that's why I'm talking to them.
Absolutely, man. And one of these days, I think we may even bring some kids on to talk about this, because again, we do have to have these conversations with our kids and re-educating them, because listen, the education that they get from their friends and so on, there's a lot of miseducation out there, and only way we can protect our kids from not having adverse action in the criminal system and all of that is to educate them about how to safely access the plant, educate them about the science of the plant and the medical benefits and everything. So we definitely have to have those conversations, and y'all know M4MM is committed to that. We're going to bring Tamika up one more time, but only to wave, because we're about to sign off. Now, I just want to thank everybody.
Sabotage.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for joining us.
I just want to say really quickly.
Go ahead. We don't know if we can hear you, but go ahead.
Really quickly, come check us out next week at the Expungement Clinic. Cookies is very, very, very committed to social equity and social justice. And I know when y'all come out and see some of the work that we're doing, y'all will jump on the Cookies bandwagon to support all of the people and community members that we have been supporting thus far, and we look forward to partnering with. So LA at the Holy Temple Church, I believe it is, but I know it's definitely in LA. Yes. Go on the M4M website, and you can definitely get the details.
Hey, listen, we got that in clear. There you go. And I tell y'all another reason why y'all want to go out to LA is because you'll be able to connect with Tamika directly without the internet in between y'all. You know what I mean? You can connect with her face to face. But thank you for joining, love. Thank you, Matt and Jamal, for joining, man. Again, I appreciate y'all, brothers. Like, more than you know, we appreciate everything you do for the organization. For those of y'all who are listening, man, we appreciate you guys for tuning in every week. This has been an awesome month for us. It's been fun having all of our different people from M4MM come on and just, sharing the love and sharing this movement that we got going on. And again, if you're not already a member, we extend that opportunity to you to become a member. We have probably still, and I need to have a conversation with Roz about, raising our price, but we still have probably the cheapest membership in the country for an association and organization. So definitely become a member, join, donate, all of that. And as always, tune in every week to CannaTalk with Roz. Y'all know my message to y'all every week is to go home, love on yourself, love on your family, get some rest, because come Monday morning, we got work to do. But I thank you all again for joining us, and we will see y'all again next week on another episode of CannaTalk with Roz. Thank you, y'all. Thank everybody.